properly winter now, and you've probably gone outside, if not cycling, then at least just to get around, and you'll discover that it's cold. It's really cold. And this video will cover the last of my 3-part series on what to wear if you want to cycle in this sort of weather, or maybe just a little bit warmer, but still pretty cold. And we're dealing with the most important of our extremities, our feet. Having cold feet can be pretty detrimental to your ride. You're not going to be enjoying yourself. You're going to have a hard time riding. It could be painful, all sorts of things. So I'm going to go over some of my tips on what to do to keep your feet warm in cold and below freezing conditions. First of all, let's start with socks. These are merino wool socks. This is pretty much a must in my opinion. These are a pair of wool eaters from Defeat. They are a thinner sock. This type of sock is equivalent to what you would have in your sort of regular cycling sock, except that it's wool instead of polyester or some other sports breathable fabric. You don't have to get cycling specific wool socks. Any sort of hiking or general casual wool sock will do. A lot of stores like here in Canada, Mount Okanagan Co-op or REI in the United States will have wool socks of all different types of varieties. Doesn't have to be cycling specific. And in fact, this pair right here that I have is from Icebreaker. These are not cycling specific socks. The difference between these and the ones I just showed you is these are super thick. They are very, very thick and warm, and something you would be wearing for below freezing temperatures. There is an issue with socks, which is if you have a warm pair of super thick socks like that, you're going to have fit issues. If you put these socks on and you put them on a pair of shoes, a regular pair of shoes that you own, you're going to find that these socks constrict your blood flow. If that happens, then you're going to get cold feet regardless. If blood can't make it to your feet, doesn't matter how warm your socks are, doesn't matter how warm your shoes are, your feet are going to get cold. And this is simply because the blood circulating through your body is what keeps our temperature up. If you are buying a pair of shoes specifically for cold weather riding, like if you want to get into fat biking, for instance, make sure to be wearing thick, warm socks when you try out your boots or shoes or wherever it is you're going to buy. And it doesn't have to be cycling specific, but you know, whatever it is you're going to wear, make sure that you're wearing thicker socks when you try them out, because then your fit will be more appropriate and you'll have the breathability in the room that you need to be able to keep your feet warm. I'm going to start with a very basic pair of what I would consider cold weather riding shoes. These are Shimano. They are Gore-Tex, and so they have the dual purpose of also being great for if you want to go riding in the rain or the wet. These are pretty much like a hiking shoe, except that they have clips for clipless pedals, and they do a good job of adding a little bit of insulation layer. The advantage of these, of course, is that they have no ventilation. If you look at a lot of regular cycling shoes, you'll see that they have, you know, mesh fronts, and this one even has a mesh inside, letting a bunch of cold air in, right? These aren't going to be good. Your feet are going to freeze in a shoe like this. Those Shimano shoes I showed you earlier also came in a larger version. This is an older model, but same idea. These are shoes that I actually was wearing just today to go outside in minus 10 degree weather. And this was actually a little bit not warm enough for this weather. I specifically got these a size larger. So these I have in my exact size because they're low cuff. So this is something more I'd wear in the spring or fall, especially if it's wet. These are high cuff, and I bought these specifically to wear with thicker socks for colder conditions, and if there's snow, you have something to deal with the deeper snow level. If you want a more sporty type shoe, there are shoes like this, also from Shimano, though again, a lot of other companies make shoes like this. This is the MW80. This is a much older shoe. There's a newer version of this, which I'm actually thinking of getting. And these are more streamlined. This is more of what I would wear on my gravel bike than I would necessarily on, you know, my fat bike. In fact, I don't use clipless pedals on my fat bike, even though I do for almost all my other type of riding. problem with these is my first pair of cold weather riding shoes or boots that I've ever purchased, and I didn't know about the tip that I just gave you where you should size up for warmer socks. And so I find these don't work that well for me, and that's why I'm probably going to be replacing these soon, because they constrict my blood flow a bit too much if I'm wearing a warmer sock, and my feet end up getting cold anyways, which is kind of counterproductive. But these are super comfortable. The ankle cuff does a really good job of keeping your ankles warm, because that's something that happens, when you're riding, your pant cuff tends to ride up a little bit, and so you want something around your ankle to keep your ankle warm that's more than just your sock. Adidas 510 came out with the Trail Cross Gore-Tex. This is also a great shoe choice. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a shoe choice for the winter, but definitely down into the single digits, Celsius, for spring and fall riding. This is a flat pedal shoe, waterproof, again with that ankle cuff. It looks like there's perforation, but these are actually waterproof Gore-Tex. And so this is also a great option for flat pedal riders. Of course, you can wear any shoe or boot that you have. I quite regularly simply go out in a pair of Keen winter boots. These aren't cycling specific, though I do end up preferring cycling specific shoes just because of the stiffer shank, and it's more comfortable for any ride that's longer than a simple short ride around the neighborhood. So last we get to deep cold weather. Now, the irony is this is a cycling specific shoe with a spot for a cleat, but I don't use it as such. I tried when I bought these initially. I was thinking I would use clipless pedals on my fat bike like I do on all my other bikes, and I learned very quickly that that just doesn't work for me. Still, I really do enjoy these particular shoes, and they are incredibly, incredibly warm. And because they are sort of designed for winter riding, the size is a bit large, so I didn't have to size up myself. I bought these in my standard 43, and they fit a nice warm sock because they are winter boots. But when you get to this sort of level, you do not have to buy winter-specific cycling boots. I happen to do that. I also got them on sale, so But any boots will do. Any type of hiking boot that's designed for the winter will be great for fat biking in the winter, provided you have a nice flat pedal. The advantage of a cycling specific boot, even if you're not going clipless, is of course the boots are a bit narrower, so you have a better contact with a standard flat pedal. If you look at here as just a general boot, it's going to have less of an ideal overlap because the boot's going to be wider. And of course, it's not going to have a stiff shank, so it's not going to be as comfortable. The other advantage of a cycling specific boot is that generally the closure mechanism, this one has BOA. The updated version of this boot has BOA on the bottom and then a big thick strap over the cuff. This holds your foot in place better, so when you're cycling, you don't get heel lift, and if you don't get heel lift, it means you won't get rubbing on the heel, which will mean longer comfort for that long winter ride that you're going to be taking on your fat bike. One last tip for you when you're going out riding in the cold. Sometimes, even after all these tips, you're going to have cold feet. You're going to have cold toes, and you want to be able to warm them up, and you're far away from your car, you're far away from any sort of shelter that you could warm up in, and my recommendation is these little gel hand warmers. Obviously, you can also use these for your hands, but if you crack these open and kind of stuff them into your boots, loosen them, stuff them in there, get them in there just to get yourself warmed up and then take them out. Don't ride with these. This is a sort of like an emergency. You're somewhere, you're super cold, you crack these open, you stick them in your boots. They'll warm up in no time. You'll get your feeling back in your toes, pull them out, maybe, stick them on your body somewhere if you're cold somewhere else. And these are great. Definitely an emergency. They're super inexpensive. You can buy a whole giant package of these. And of course, as I've mentioned in other reviews, the reverse can be true. These are warm, and I've gone riding in these when it wasn't that cold, like -5. -5 is not cold enough for these boots. Then you have the opposite problem. You're sweating, and then Once you've sweated, then that sweat will start conducting the heat in your body away from you, and then you get super cold. And so, you have to be careful. One other shoe adjacent solution for cold weather riding is overbooties. This is a pair of old Louis Garneau ones. They kind of go over your existing shoes. But you can see the cleat is exposed on the bottom, and you got a bit of a tread, and they do keep your feet warm. It is a good solution if you only want to go riding in the winter very occasionally, not a lot, because you're going to wear these out and you're just going to destroy them in no time if you actually do any sort of hiking or using them on a regular basis. But if you just want to go ride once in a while in the winter and you don't want to spend the money on a dedicated pair of winter boots, this is a good solution. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little 3-part series on cold weather riding. If you have any thoughts or comments, please let me know below. If you've liked this video and want to see more, please subscribe, and I'll see you out there.